Welcome to Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today we're heading back to the spring of 1974. It was a time when life was simpler, louder, and somehow more alive. The smell of fresh-cut grass filled the air. Our baseball gloves were broken in, and every kid in America seemed to have spring fever, especially the Smith boys. 1974, I was 16. My brother Jeff, 14. The twins, Rick and Randy, were 11. Our brother Kyle was just 3. We were living on Mound Street in Marion, Ohio, our little piece of the world, at least temporarily. Back when we as brothers still did things together, before cars, girlfriends, and jobs started pulling us in different directions. Our house had a backyard that was just big enough for imagination to take root and trouble to follow close behind. 5 boys, 1 mother, and an endless appetite for anything that bounced, flew, or rolled. Back then, we didn't have computers or internet or smartphones. We didn't text each other. We hollered across the house. Cable TV wasn't in our world yet. We had the big 3 networks, and if we were lucky, a fuzzy channel or 2 you could sometimes pick up if you adjusted the antenna just right. And yet, somehow, we were never bored. Our apps were our baseball gloves. Our screens were blue skies. Our notifications came from Mom's voice yelling, "You boys better get in here before dark." In 1974, kids didn't sit around inside. We stayed outside until the street lights came on. We honed our athletic skills the old-fashioned way, by trial, error, and a few well-earned bruises. And in our family, competition wasn't optional. It was inherited. Spring of 1974, baseball fever hit us like it did every year. We were disciples of the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds. Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, our Mount Rushmore of baseball heroes. Our backyard games were our version of Riverfront Stadium. And on one particular afternoon, Jeff, the second oldest, he was taking his turn, hitting us some balls we could shag and throw back into him. He was acting as batter and unofficial coach. He'd toss the ball up, crush it into the sky, and yell for us to hustle as we scrambled to make the catch. Seemed like Jeff was always serious about baseball, always focused, determined. After all, he was one of the few people in America to play Little League Baseball for 5 years. The twins and I were a little less disciplined. We were the outfield clowns, joking, laughing, occasionally letting a ball drop if it meant a better punchline. 1974 was the year of great music. Elton John, the Eagles, Paul McCartney and Wings. And when we turned on the TV dial, we'd catch Happy Days and The $6 Million Man. The movies, The Towering Inferno and Blazing Saddles, ruled the box office. 2 films as different as the Smith brothers themselves. Gas was about 50 cents a gallon, and Richard Nixon was still in the White House, though not for long. You could feel the tension in the country, but in our backyard on Mound Street, the only thing we were worried about was who would catch the fly ball. But anyway, back to the incident. One of us, and to this day, the identity remains a subject of family debate, threw the ball back a little too high for Jeff. It sailed right over his head. Now, Jeff had been chasing our bad throws all afternoon. Jeff had spent the better part of an hour chasing down our wild throws. And this was the final straw, one more over his head. In a flash of teenage frustration, he took his heavy aluminum bat and he hurled it straight up into the air. For a moment, we all stood frozen, squinting into the sunlight. It felt like the bat was suspended in time, twirling end over end, glinting in the afternoon light. We watched that bat climb higher and higher. Then it started to descend. Gravity was doing its work. And then it came down squarely on Jeff's head. He dropped like a sack of potatoes. For a split second, we thought he was dead. Then, when he started moaning and looking around, we did what brothers often do in moments of potential tragedy. We started laughing. Jeff was stunned, bleeding a little, but absolutely furious. He looked up expecting concern, sympathy, maybe a brotherly hand to help him up. Instead, he saw his three brothers doubled over, wheezing with laughter. And that's when the look changed. Jeff's eyes narrowed. He picked up that same aluminum bat, the weapon of his undoing, and he charged at us. What followed was pure backyard chaos. We tore around the garage, through the bushes, over the clothesline, and down the alley, half terrified, half howling with laughter. Jeff, with a lump on his head and vengeance in his heart, was right on our heels. We were laughing so hard we could barely breathe. Somewhere in there, the line between fear and hilarity disappeared. We had scattered like scared rabbits. You could hear our sneakers slapping the dirt, the bat clanging against the fence, and Jeff yelling every name he could think of. We didn't stop running until we were sure he'd cooled off. Jeff, looking for comfort, went inside to tell Mom. Surely she'd take his side. Her poor son, hit by a flying bat, bleeding from the head. Now, if you grew up in our house, you knew that sympathy was in short supply. Mom had raised 5 boys on grit, humor, and a kind of tough love that built character, whether you wanted it or not. Jeff came in, expecting comfort, maybe a trip to ER. Instead, Mom gave him a wet washcloth and a cold shoulder. In a line that said, "You'll live. Don't throw bats in the air next time." And that was it. Case closed. Looking back now, that backyard moment says everything about what it meant to be a Smith brother in the 1970s. We were tough. We were mischievous. And sometimes we were our own worst enemies. And what separates the Smith from the myth is who made the throw that sent Jeff over the edge. Was the throw deliberate or accidental? we may never know. It was an aluminum bat. But how heavy was it? It depends on who you ask. And was Jeff's head truly that hard? Well, considering he survived a direct hit and still chased us down, the evidence speaks for itself. Back in 1974, we didn't have phones or video games. We had backyards, ball gloves, and each other. We got hurt, we laughed, we argued, and we forgave. And somehow, through all the chaos, we survived childhood and Mom's tough love. Now here's where the separating the Smith from the myth part comes in. The question has never been settled. Who threw the ball over Jeff's head? Rick swears it wasn't him. Randy says he was picking dandelions and missed the whole thing. But I remember him standing right beside me. And as for me, well, I've always had a reputation as the family instigator, the spark plug, the one who might have accidentally put a little too much arm into that throw. Maybe it was me, maybe it wasn't. But if I'm being honest, it feels like something I would have done. But I simply can't remember 51 years later. Understandably, we rarely talk about that day. Maybe because it's just one of those memories that lives best in the rearview mirror. Funny now, but maybe not so funny then. Yet every time I think of the spring of 1974, I see it so clearly. The backyard of Mound Street, Marion, Ohio. The smell of dirt and grass. The brothers who still played together before life got complicated. Within a few short years, everything would start to change. Jobs, girlfriends, high school, growing up. We drifted like most brothers do. But for a few perfect springs, we were a team. A band of brothers with baseballs and big dreams, playing under Ohio sky that seemed endless. When I think back now, I realize the bat incident was more than just a moment of backyard chaos. It was a snapshot of who we were. A mix of mischief, competition, laughter, and yes, love. We didn't have gadgets or screens. We only had each other. And while we may never separate the Smith from the myth on this one thing's for sure. Jeff's head and our bond as brothers were tougher than the aluminum bat. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. My name is Brian Smith, and we are history. Thank you for listening.